There is a difference in some cats that doesn't show itself immediately, but once you notice it, you can't ignore it. If you live with a female cat, you may have already felt it without being able to explain it. She moves through the same rooms, chooses the same places, follows patterns that seem familiar, but somehow, it never feels random. There's a sense that she is not just in the environment, but quietly reading it, watching before acting, choosing before approaching, allowing rather than reacting. And over time, you begin to realize this isn't about personality. It's something deeper in the way she relates to the world around her. You begin to notice it in very small moments. For instance, when she enters a room, she doesn't quickly settle. There's often a stop, not hesitation, not unclearness, just a brief moment where she seems to take in the entire space, the positions, the sounds, even your presence before deciding where to be. And once she chooses, she rarely adjusts. It's as if the decision was already complete before the movement even began. The same thing happens in interaction. She doesn't always come closer right away. She watches first, not in a passive way but in a way that feels selective, as if proximity is something she allows, not something she defaults to. And over time, these small patterns begin to connect, not as separate behaviors but as parts of a single, consistent system. Control is not asserted, it is maintained. A female cat rarely needs to assert control in ways that are easily visible, because for her, control is not something to be claimed in a moment, but something to be maintained without stop. When she enters a space, she does not simply occupy it. She studies it, often from away, often from above, positioning herself in a way that allows her to see all dimension of the place, including probable exit points and exit strategies. These long periods of stillness, where she appears to be doing nothing, are not empty moments. They are structured, filled with quiet processing, where she tracks movement, sound, and patterns that repeat over time. This is why even small changes in her environment can feel significant to her, even if they seem insignificant to you. A moved chair, a shifted routine, a new object placed in a familiar pathway. These are not just changes in layout, but disruptions in a system she has carefully organized. Her sense of control comes not from reacting to what happens, but from reducing the need to react at all. Her world is made from invisible dimensions. If you start to track her more closely, you may notice that her movements are rarely unplanned. She returns to the same paths, pauses in the same places, and revisits certain corners of the room with a consistency that feels almost intentional. Over time, these repetitions form something more than habit. They become a structure, an invisible map built through scent, memory, and familiarity. Each point she touches, each item she rubs against, becomes part of this internal system, marked not just physically but perceptually as something known and stable. When these markers remain intact, her environment feels complete, predictable, and safe. However, once they are removed or altered too often, even in ways that seem minor, the effect is not simply a neutral reset. It creates a subtle sense of instability, as if parts of her world have been erased without explanation. What looks like a simple act of cleaning or rearranging can, from her perspective, feel like the quiet disappearance of something essential. She does not respond quickly. She responds accurately. There is a noticeable difference in how she responds to the unexpected. Where some cats react immediately to movement or sound, she often pauses first, holding still for just a moment longer than you might expect. This pause is not hesitation in the usual sense, nor is it a lack of awareness. It is a form of evaluation, a brief but deliberate processing of what has changed and whether it requires action. During this time, her attention narrows, focusing not on everything at once, but on what matters most within that moment. When she finally moves, it is not impulsive but precise, as if the response has already been decided before the motion begins. Over time, this creates a presence that feels less reactive and more intentional, as though her energy is reserved for moments that have already passed through a quiet filter of significance. Her affection is not constant. Affection, for her, does not exist as a continuous expression but as a series of deliberate decisions. She does not seek closeness at all times, and she does not distribute it evenly. Instead, she chooses when to approach, when to remain near, and when to withdraw again, often without any obvious external reason. This selectiveness can sometimes be misunderstood as distance, but it reflects something more nuanced. Her connection is not based on frequency, but on intention. When she settles beside you, when she leans in slightly, or when she remains in your presence without leaving, these moments carry a different kind of weight. They are not automatic behaviors repeated out of habit, but chosen interactions that reflect a level of comfort she has allowed to develop gradually. Because of this, her affection may feel quieter, but also more defined, as if each moment of closeness has been carefully placed rather than casually given. Her bond is built through stability, not attention. Trying to accelerate this bond often leads to a kind of resistance that feels difficult to explain. This is because what she responds to is not intensity or frequent attempts at interaction, but stability over time. She notices patterns in your behavior long before she responds to them. The consistency of your movements, the predictability of your presence, the absence of sudden or intrusive actions. These become the foundation upon which her trust is built. At first, the change is almost unnoticeable. She may remain in the same room more often, position herself slightly closer, or linger a little longer before leaving. There is no single moment where the bond becomes clear, no visible shift that marks its beginning. Instead, it forms gradually, until one day you realize that she has already included you within her sense of normal, and your presence has become something she quietly prefers. She hides discomfort, even from you. There is, however, a part of her nature that works against easy understanding. She does not reveal discomfort in ways that are immediately obvious. If something is wrong, it rarely appears as a clear signal. Instead, it emerges through subtle changes that can easily be overlooked. A slight hesitation before jumping, a small adjustment in how she rests, a difference in how she moves through spaces that were once effortless. These changes do not demand attention, and that is precisely why they matter. Because by the time discomfort becomes visible in a way that cannot be ignored, it has often been present for longer than expected. Understanding her requires noticing not just what is clearly different, but what is slightly altered, what feels just a little out of place. These small details are often the only way she communicates something that she is not naturally inclined to show. She protects distance before she offers closeness. There is a moment that often goes unnoticed, not because it is rare, but because it does not present itself clearly. A female cat does not move toward closeness in a direct or immediate way. Instead, she begins by protecting a certain distance, holding herself just outside of full interaction, as if that space between you and her is something that needs to remain intact before it can slowly be reduced. This distance is not rejection, and it is not uncertainty in the simple sense. It is a form of control over how connection develops. You may notice that she chooses positions where she can leave easily, or that she approaches only halfway before stopping, observing, and deciding whether to continue. Over time, if nothing disrupts this balance, the distance begins to change on its own. She sits closer, stays longer, and eventually allows moments of contact that feel unforced. What appears as hesitation is actually a process, one where closeness is not given all at once, but built carefully, in layers that she chooses to reveal. The shift you eventually notice, because once you begin to see her clearly, the uncertainty fades. What once felt unpredictable starts to reveal a pattern, one that was always there but required time to understand. Her distance becomes selectiveness, her silence becomes awareness, and her independence becomes a form of quiet stability. She is not less expressive, only more precise in how and when she expresses herself. And when she chooses to include you within that structure, it is not a temporary shift or a passing preference. It is a decision that settles in slowly, without announcement, but remains with a consistency that is difficult to replace.